Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about the call of Abram. If you have a Bible and you're reading along with me, remember that I'm reading the NIV version of the Bible. So if you're reading a different version, it might say something a little bit different than mine, but that's the one I'm reading. In my last video, I talked about Noah's Ark, and I mentioned that Noah had 3 sons. One of his sons was Japheth, and Japheth went on to have 7 sons, and one of them had 4 sons, and from them came the married peoples, and they had different languages and stuff. So that's chapter 10 of Genesis. That's like the first part of chapter 10 of Genesis. I'm not going to cover that whole chapter because it's not really relevant so much to Abram. Also want to quickly go over the Tower of Babel story. This is chapter 11 of Genesis. So it's right after what I just said, that the married people had like different languages and stuff. Well, chapter 11 says that everybody had the same language. Everybody spoke one language. So they decided to build like a tower up to heaven and to, I guess, reach like the door to heaven, which we now know is not possible, partially because heaven's not real and because we've been to space and there's no door or gate or anything entrance to heaven up there that we've found. They get this idea and they start building the tower, and this angers God. And I don't know why God gets so angry if he knows that it's not possible to reach heaven with a tower, but it does. And he gets angry and he comes down and he scatters everyone's languages and takes them and puts them in like different parts of the earth so that they can't communicate anymore and build the tower to heaven. So that's the story of the Tower of Babel, and I guess the account for how or why we have so many different languages in the world. I guess that's the way that the Bible wants to explain how that happened. I do want to point something out though, and this may just be in my Bible. I don't know if it says it in other ones, but Genesis chapter 11 verse 7 says, "Come, let us go down and confuse their language so they will not understand each other." And that was God talking. He said, "Let us go down." My question is, who is us? Who's he talking to? Who's with him? Because for what we know right now, God's the only one up there. I mean, there's been a mention of an angel once that I remember in the story to guard the tree of life after Adam and Eve ate the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But other than that, it really doesn't mention anything about anybody else being up there in heaven with God. So I kind of question the us a little bit in that one. So this is how we get from Noah to Abram. Like I said, Noah had 3 sons. He had Ham, Japheth, and Shem. Shem had a son who had a son who had a son. 9 generations later, we get Abram. Well, Abram had a brother, Haran, who had a son named Lot. But Haran died, so Abram kind of just took on the responsibility of Lot, I guess. Also, Abram's wife, Sarai, couldn't have children. She was barren, so that might be why he's so invested in his nephew. Alright, I'm going to read another verse from my Bible, Genesis chapter 12. "The Lord had said to Abram, 'Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you.'" So Abram took his wife Sarai and his nephew Lot, and he took all their people and all of their possessions and stuff, and they left. So they get to the land of Canaan, and God says, "This land is for your offspring." So he gives Abram's children the land, I guess, and then Abram builds an altar for God, and then they continue on their journey, and they head east of Bethel. There they build another altar, and then keep going again. So eventually, Abram ends up going to Egypt with his wife because there's a famine in Egypt, and I guess he goes to help or something. Now, I personally don't really like this story very much because it seems morally wrong to me. So on their way to Egypt, Abram tells his wife to lie and pretend that she's his sister because she's so beautiful that the Egyptians would kill him and take her if they knew that she was his wife. So he asks her to lie. So they get there and they lie and say that his wife is really his sister, and the Pharaoh believes him. So they're nice to Abram because they like his sister, his wife, who they think is his sister, And I guess the Pharaoh ends up taking Abram's wife as his own wife because Abram told her to lie. The Pharaoh takes the wife and Abram acquires like animals and stuff that he needs. And then God sends down like a plague on the Pharaoh. Genesis chapter 12, verse 17 through 19 says, "But the Lord inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife Sarai. So Pharaoh summoned Abram. 'What have you done to me?' he said. 'Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say, she is my sister, so that I took her to be my wife? Now then, here is your wife, take her and go.'" So I don't think that the Pharaoh really did anything wrong. He didn't know that she was married, but God punishes him anyway for just not knowing. He believed Abram's lie, and he gets punished for it. I don't really see how that's fair. Like, it's kind of fucked up in my opinion. Like, the Pharaoh didn't know that he was taking a married woman. He didn't know he was doing anything wrong, but God sends a disease on him because he believed a lie. It's not his fault. And it bugs me. And it kind of pisses me off because it's just not right. It's not fair. So to me, that seems like God, again, is playing favorites, just like he did with Cain and Abel. He favors Abram, even though he lied. He lied. He did something wrong, and he gets rewarded. Yet the Pharaoh did nothing wrong, to his knowledge, and he gets punished. Like, what kind of God is that? What kind of God would punish somebody who doesn't know that they're doing something wrong? That doesn't seem like a fair God to me. That doesn't seem like a loving God to me. That's not a God I would want governing my life. It's not a God I would worship. But that's all I have for today. Next video is going to be about Abram. It's going to continue. And it's also going to talk about how Abram actually becomes Abraham. So, surprise, if you didn't know that, Abraham is Abram. Let me know what you think about the story. Let me know what you think about my video. This is only my third one. I have gotten a little bit of negative feedback on my last couple of videos, but that's okay because I'm still new to this and I'm figuring it out, so I'll get better. But I've mostly gotten a lot of support from a lot of people, so I want to just take a second to thank everybody who has been supportive for me and who tells me to keep making these videos, because without that support and encouragement, I don't know that I would have the motivation to continue to do this. So thank you. And I mean it. And keep watching and keep sharing and keep liking my videos and letting me know what you think. I feel like God's kind of a bully, really.